Okay, actually, we're joined today by Craig and Becky Powers, and get right into it. Basically, we'll talk a little bit about, your history, your past, how you've got into this, and then the fact that husband-wife team working together, which I think is pretty special. I got to work with my wife for many years, and that was some of the funnest time I had.
Every citizen armed ensures that every American patriot is prepped with knowledge, perspective, and firepower.
He counted on America to be passive. He counted wrong.
Ask not what your country can do for you. Ask what you can do for your country.
Craig, I'll start with you since you've done this for a lot of years. When it comes to firearms instruction in Bakersfield and Kern County, anybody that talks out there, your name comes up first. So really kind of talk a little bit about how you got into this, almost 50 years ago now, right?
My name's Craig Powers, and my dad, Norvin Powers, not Norman, Norvin, everybody called him Norman.
He answered to anything, though.
He pretty much, just don't call him late for dinner.
Exactly.
And he started the business in the mid-'60s. I remember going to the range with him with Sheriff's Department activities. He was a deputy sheriff. Yeah, I was 5, 6, 7, maybe. Started teaching lightly and doing range activities when I was 12, 13, and then just kind of progressed through the years. Went away to college, got a bachelor's degree in psychology, and then a master's degree in counseling. I'm a licensed therapist, believe it or not. And it's kind of weird. And
it's inactive, though.
It's inactive.
I think it's kind of a nice combination, though, really.
And I can tell you, we could talk about that. It comes up a lot. But went to work for the probation department. I eventually became much more active with my dad's business in the early 1990s, not the 1890s. I'm not that old. And got NRA certifications, then became post-certified after 9/11, and then much more active, became a firearms instructor for the probation department. Have several post-certifications, not numerous, two, and then numerous NRA, and plus we update our training all the time. We try to go once every year, every other year, to have somebody who really knows what they're doing, that's our level or above, who can catch me and my failure points. We took over the business when my dad had some health issues. What would you say, Becky?
That was around 2000. I remember 2002, it was completely ours.
So,
okay.
And then the company names changed slightly when we formed a corporation, and that kind of had to change a little bit. But in the process, I become a court-certified expert witness on firearms, use of force. We have an online business where we teach the CCW class is taught in an online format, and then you come to the range to qualify. You become a court-certified firearms specialist by being able to go to court. And if you've ever watched my cousin Vinny,
yes,
when they're doing the voir dire,
yep,
depending on voir dire, VR,
right,
whatever, of Vinny's girlfriend, and he starts questioning, she establishes her bona fides and her expertise to the court. Herman Munster, who played the judge in that movie, great job. And the whole movie is really interesting from a legal standpoint. But that's what you do. I did. I went to court. In one case, the DA just accepted my expertise without having to have the court do the voir dire. But then I've had that happen twice. And then one time they certified me as an expert witness in use of force. And so then that got added. I've also done some expert witness stuff in terms of as a probation officer, where my expertise was established, but it's not regarding firearms, use of force.
I had to go through that actually when I had a grocery store. It seemed like the crazy thing to me. I was sitting on the stand actually testifying against the guys that we had stopped shoplifting, and the defense counsel tried to have me taken off the stand, and they had to certify me as as an expert on stopping shoplifters, on identifying shoplifters. And it was back in about 2002, 2003.
Yeah, when I was in college, my dad had a private security investigator business, and we did shoplifting for Safeway.
Oh, yes.
So I did that. That was a hoot.
That was a lot of fun when I was young. Then as I got older, I lost a lot of interest in that. The fighting got a lot less fun as I got older.
I might win, but then I end up going to the doctor, which means I didn't win.
Yeah, we had quite a few of those little incidences where it just, and I think that leads into some stuff that's going on nowadays in our society.
So that's what we do primarily now is we do use of force training, legal, lawful use of force and firearms training, and we do it for a broad spectrum of people. We also host, when we can, Haley Strategic Partners. They'll be here in January because I wanted to bring in a very high-level training company so local Bakersfield residents could have an opportunity to go without having to spend a fortune flying someplace and moving their guns and the ammo and hotels and rental cars. And
where's Haley out of?
Haley's out of Arizona.
Okay.
But we tried to get him here in September, but evidently they were in like Switzerland for 5 weeks. So when you come to Bakersfield.
I think I would choose Switzerland over Bakersfield. Yeah, especially in September. If I remember right, it was about 106, 110.
It was a rough summer.
So we work doing that. We have a great time, love our clients. And then when my dad stepped out of the business, Becky stepped in. So it'll be a good time for her she's about an arm's length worth of NRA certification.
I was looking at both of your certifications online. It's extremely impressive to see how both of you certified for so long. And I think all your certifications are listed right on your website. So I think that's, absolutely. So you came in at about 2002, 2003, is that?
Yep. I had helped clerically for a little bit before that when his dad was having some issues. And then it occurred, I noticed that as I was getting training, at that point, I was wishing that there were some female instructors, and there just really weren't many female instructors around in 2002. And one of my instructors said, well, you ought to go for it. You need to do that. Be that woman for the women like you who want to deal with a woman. And so then I pursued training and started getting certifications and just built on them. And so many NRA certifications, pistol, rifle, personal protection in the home, outside of the home, refuse to be a victim, range safety officer.
I think the funniest one was we were at SHOT Show and Clint Smith was in a booth. And I go, well, there's Clint Smith. He's a trainer. Would you ask him? Would you go interview him? Because she didn't like highly opinionated ancient men.
Oh, I had a name for those.
We're not going to discuss that.
I won't say that. Yeah.
The actual word is arse. It's a Proto-Germanic word arse, because an ass has ears and a long nose and 4 hooves and a tail and hair. But ancient arse. Anyway, so I said my wife would like to do training, but she'd like to interview you. And so she did. And I don't know if there's anybody more famous than Clint Smith in our industry. And we ended up going, 6, 7 times?
We went, several. And then he invited us to observe or he invited me to observe, and he said you could come along.
Yeah.
So that was nice. They were very encouraging, both Clint and Heidi.
Well, that's one of the things that keeps coming up is whenever I'm talking to folks around, and we've had a few folks on here, and is that women are more comfortable learning from another woman a lot of times, it seems like, or they're definitely from a man that's not their husband. So it's really impressive that you two could work together as long as you have.
Yeah, I don't have any extra bullet holes.
No, that's you wear a vest often, probably, right? No,
I'm not worried about it.
When my sister-in-law, when she was getting ready to help with my brother's business, she knew we worked together, and she had asked something about it, and I said, well, one of the things it's going to do is any issues in the relationship, it's going to really exacerbate those. It's really going to show up. And so you'll have to deal with those. So you have to, it's nice to be able to work with each other. Yeah. It does, sometimes it's a lot of each other, and sometimes it's just handy, but sometimes you notice, oh my goodness, we've been talking business for the last 3 days. I mean, how about just some time for us?
I think that's the hardest time. My wife and I worked together for many years, like I said, and we really enjoyed that. But it was a little hard. You had to learn to leave that. We had to leave it at the store and do our best, and that didn't always happen. So I imagine you guys run into that a little bit. So,
a little bit. Yeah. Well, one of the things, a lot of people just make this assumption that all women want to learn from women.
Right.
And it's kind of a sexual stereotype, except I when Becky had an illness problem for a couple of months, couldn't work, I did her ladies' classes. I used her outline. I said the same thing she says. Got no reactions. I mean, I read in the audience the whole time, and I'm like, I'm falling dead. She does the same thing, and everybody pays attention. I watched her one night because I'm trying to figure out where's the magic sauce? How does she do this? And she's got a couple, and he's standing there because he's all sanctimonious and I know everything about guns. He's sitting there. And then I watch him lean over and look as she's pointing something out. And then he's closer, and then he's closer, and then he starts asking questions. And sometimes people just need a different presentation. And to not be belittled about not having the knowledge. I have a dude ask me questions that a lot of people think is simple, but he didn't know. So who am I to cut him off and, make you feel embarrassed? So that's a good question.
I think it's a great thing for you to point that out because a lot of people are intimidated. It's the idea of guns in general. I've taken a couple phone calls and listened to my son talk to a couple people that are interested in getting CCWs, but they don't know where to start and they're afraid to ask. So if you have somebody who's able, and they're going to walk into that class and they think they're the dumbest guy in the room. So they're afraid to ask questions. We've seen that in a lot of different other types of training. So it's the same thing with this, but it's probably a little more intimidating when you're talking firearms.
Sometimes. I think we have good employees, and Becky there. When we have ladies there, we try to have Becky there for at least the first 2 or 3 hours of the initial, first time getting a CCW. So they have the opportunity to ask questions. And, one of the things I do in the initial class is I say every time you fire a shot, if that bullet goes where you want it to go or doesn't go where you want it to go, you just say to yourself, well, that's good. I learned something about that. You hit the ground between you and the target. That's awesome, because now you learned. Until you hit a failure point, you don't learn. And so everything you do here today is going to be a good thing. Jocko Willnick's
I was just thinking, you must have listened to Jocko.
He a year and a half ago, completely changed the way I think about this.
Yeah, that was incorporated. Great video.
If you haven't listened to it, it's Jocko Willnick Good. It's 2 minutes. Yeah. You should listen to it. Yeah. And he has a fuller explanation on one of his podcasts, but I try to do that with clients. You ask a question. That's good. How can we answer that? That's a good question.
No, I think that's great.
I think that's how. Would you say so? I mean, to me, I'm an enthusiast. Yeah. Maybe I'm a little too enthusiastic.
I think it also helps to be approachable. Yeah. I know our guys that work with us. They're have wonderful demeanors. They're easily approachable, and they do a great job. So,
and we have 3 full-time people, part-time, full-time. I don't have their permission to use their names, but one's a retired probation officer, one's a retired state officer, and the other one is unretired. He has twins. Oh, okay. But he's a young guy, and he's just super good at working with people. And so when you have somebody who's got a problem or having a little trouble or maybe elderly and needs a little extra attention, slow everybody down. They think they're slowing everybody down. I go, no, we're good. We're here for you.
No, I think that's awesome. And you came out. You were a parole officer, probation officer for a long. We actually had a parole agent out here a while back. So you're in probation. How did that lead into or help with what you're doing? Was there some carryover? Did you see
I have
things?
A lot of funny stories.
Yeah, I would imagine that you've got some interesting scenarios.
I was a firearms instructor before I was a probation officer.
Okay.
So.
Well, yeah.
It was helpful, though, when probation decided to put you in a firearms instructor position also.
And some say I'm still notorious at the department for that. Yeah.
Nothing wrong with being a little notorious.
And we do some law enforcement training periodically. And so without going into the details with that, but we still do that stuff. Yeah, give me an opportunity to be there sometimes 2 or 3 days a week, working on the range or watching. There's something that comes with watching people make mistakes and having successes, and then watching how we could improve it. And I'll just give you a real quick example. Probation has a thing where they have to be able to draw and fire in a second and a half in order to be a probation officer. They have to do that 10 times, I think. I'm not sure what the current status is. So if they change holsters, they have to be able to do that. And I noticed early on that they would draw, aim the gun, the finger would be straightened on the frame, then they'd put it on the trigger, then they would pull it. And yet they knew they were going to shoot it. So I would have a talk with them. You know you're going to shoot this target. If a guy's got a knife charging you, you know you're going to shoot it. Get on the trigger. And then they notice they knock a half second or so off of their time, and they're in the ballpark where they need to be. So learning those little steps and watching, Haley Strategic has been awesome because they've done a lot of work with kinesiology and used to have a kinesiologist on staff as an instructor. How does the body work? You know, I was taught that old school stuff where you shoot I watched my dad shoot sheriff's qualifications from the hip. You had to do that back then. They stuck cigarette butts in my ears to protect my ears. That's my ear pro.
What year was that, roughly?
65, 64.
We've come a long ways.
Yeah. And then, and just watch us evolve. But that whole two-handed, you pull back with one hand and push forward with another, the whole purpose of that was to keep your hands together. Well, Haley's done the research. You look, we have the video on our website. How you hold the gun to keep your hands together. Why do you want your arms, asymmetric? They should be symmetrical. Why do I need to pull back when the gun's coming back? I need to push forward. Those little things just combine together, and then we just work with people.
I like how they focus on using your body to work for you to get that round where it needs to be.
About where you're positioning, how you're getting that out there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, one of the exercises I like is they'll, as a competition, put everybody in the class at night, no lights, 50 yards. You have to stand there, and then you'll do a body alignment, align your pelvis, shoulder, your center line on the target. You got one round in the gun's empty other than that. And then he lights up the target at 50 yards, metal target, one of my metal targets usually, and he'll turn the light off, and then he hits the buzzer, and you have to draw and hit it.
Wow.
Almost nobody can draw
I was
and
going to
hit
say,
it.
what's the percentage on that one? It's got to be low.
Last time I did it, he asked me, because he just looked at me, side leg. He says, "Where'd you hit?" I said, 3 inches above the shoulder and about 3 inches to the left of the head. And I learned that from them. I learned to be able to align my body. So why wouldn't I go to training? That's why we're having him back in January.
Yeah.
So there are a few openings, by the way, if anybody wants to sign up.
Oh, absolutely. And if they want to get on that, get on to
Haley's website and sign up.
Okay.
It's
Can
right
they
there.
sign up through your site?
No. We don't have, we're just the host.
Okay.
We'll
All
provide
right.
snacks and coffee, and, we make sure everything goes smooth with the range, and then I'll be in the class.
Okay.
So we're doing a 3-day carbine, or 3-day pistol, then a 3-day carbine, what they call their D5, which is their disruptive tactics.
Mm-hmm.
So how do you run the gun? We used to do a lot of night class too, day class, then night class for 6-day. But this time we're trying a different format because we think that meets the needs of the Southern Valley better.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll see. We might have people from Switzerland.
Yeah, you never know what they brought back, right? So
Well,
with that, you have a lot of different courses you're teaching out there, though. When I was looking
Primarily
at your site.
CCW, but yeah.
Yeah, but still, you had some beginner courses.
Becky
You
has
do?
one Saturday.
Oh, are you? Because can you describe that a little bit? Because like I said, that gets into that intimidation of the new person getting into firearms.
She doesn't,
Yeah,
because
mine-
none of the rest of us can do it half as well as she does. I'm serious.
Oh, I mean, women tend to be a little more patient than men, and
It's a fuller explanation. The average man thinks he fell out of his mama's womb with a 45 in his hand. He's wrong.
well, yeah, but yes, we. Well, and you know this better than anybody. What I keep hearing is anytime that someone takes their wife out to shoot, at first, when they first start, the wife always shoots better than the husband to start.
My daughter shoots better than her husband. But
Yeah,
there
it's-
might be a reason for that.
Yeah, well, but it just seems like you guys control things a little better, and I don't know if we have so much ego.
I
at
think they
times.
come in without the assumptions.
Yeah, we come in with a fresh, open mind to receive information, and then I think maybe we have a higher drive of, I'm really going to tackle this thing. I'm going to try to make sure I do this well because we have something to prove. I don't know. But my beginning handgun class, and I always start out letting folks know that this is designed as though you know absolutely nothing. So we start out nice and slow, go over the safety rules, why they are what they are. We go over the parts of the gun, how they work, how ammunition works. Go over the fundamentals of pistol shooting, get started shooting on the range with 22s, so you're not having to deal with the loud noise and the recoil of center fire. So I always tell me, because oftentimes they don't know, a 22? versus
Right.
center fire. What does that mean? I go, so it just goes plink instead of bang, so you're not, so you can have the opportunity to master the fundamentals, get good, accurate hits on your target without the distraction of the loud noise and the recoil of a larger caliber. And then once they're doing well and starting to build a little confidence, if they're ready and want to, then we give them a chance to shoot a variety of guns. And then they have a far better idea when they go into the gun store as to what they like and don't like. It's
And what do we end up with on the range all the time? Somebody's husband bought him a what?
well,
Yes.
sometimes
It
there's
doesn't matter. That's the wrong solution. Husband bought it.
Exactly.
The woman needs to own it and needs to decide that's what she wants to do, and then take charge. Really.
So the most dramatic one was a client. They were nice folks. They were friends. He buys her a 2-inch 357 38. Yanked 5-shot. Takes it out. She's like, I'm not real happy. A couple weeks later, I go out there and Becky's got her and her husband out the range. He's supposed to bring a whole bag. He's got all his guns. I ask, what's she like? She goes, my 45. And it's not a 45. It's a Packmeyer custom 45 from the 70s, so worth 10, 15 grand. That's her favorite gun.
Of course it is.
And we think, well, she wants it because it's cute. Yeah, but it kicks harder. So I'll tell people in the gun stores, especially, if it's short and cute, it's hard to shoot.
Yeah. That's.
And you have to become an expert at that point.
You brought something up, and you're talking about your class and actually we brought this up with another guest a while back, a question. And I'm going through this with my wife right now because the gun she carries, and she decided to do competition and realized it's not good for competition, so now we have to go get a new gun. And this will be her, I don't know, third or fourth gun, it seems like. But when you take these classes, you bring out numerous guns so they can try them and shoot them and get comfortable firing that. Is that what you're doing?
So, and that way you've got a representation of, single stack, double stack. So, what the grip feels like, if you like a narrow grip, a bulkier grip, different sights on the gun, and then different calibers, and then just the whole functioning. So do you like having a decocker? Do you like the trigger to be the same for every single shot? And it just, it helps.
38s are visual for a lot of people. They can see it, and it helps them feel safer around the gun. It's just hard to shoot.
Yes.
And if they come out for initial CCW, you have to shoot 150 rounds out of that gun.
Yeah.
I always bring a 4-inch heavy steel 38 so they can, why don't you just try this one for a few shots?
Well, and so often ladies have been told, well, if you're not gonna shoot on a regular basis, then you just need a revolver, a little 2-inch revolver. And really, the trigger is hard to press the trigger on a revolver. And then if they just spend a little time with it and get proper technique for racking the slide, then it becomes less intimidating. And the more time on the range and getting familiar, I like to tell folks that if you're planning on using this or having this available for you for self-defense, it needs to feel like an extension of you. You need to be able to pick that up and know you're going to be right on target when you want to be. You can't go out to the range, take a class, be all good, fine and dandy, and then 2 years later when it's time to renew your permit, you're like, oh, man, where's the time gone? I haven't shot since my last renewal. It's like, seriously? That first round that comes out of that gun, that's the one that's going to count.
And you're on a 90-day timetable when you've been to the range. In 90 days, your skill set's going to drop off a cliff. And you can have a BB gun, you can do things to do that, but what would you say is the most common ladies' gun that we see that's appropriate that ladies end up choosing? Besides a Glock 19, which everybody else does.
Well,
because that's your favorite.
Which is exactly what Naomi told me to go buy. She's like, you need to carry that Glock 19.
Yeah, it's fun. I love my Glock 19.
Your Glock 19s.
Well, yeah, there is that. I do have a Gen 4, and I do like the grip on the Gen 4 better than the 3.
Better.
Yeah.
One is not in.
Exactly.
choose one.
Yes.
So the
SIG 238 is what I was thinking. The SIG 238 is a good
It's-
orthopedic gun. You can rack it. I can rack it by putting two fingers up and
Okay.
Yeah, that's small. That's easy to rack, less intimidating. The shield people, I mean, I like to see folks in at least a 9, but it is tough to rack. But you can practice. There's things you can do to practice to be able to rack that slide.
Which is actually what my wife carries now as a shield. And she doesn't have any problem racking it, but it doesn't have, for what she wants to do now, she needs a larger capacity.
well, and also the SIG. Your 365.
The
is what you
365
carry.
is sweet. You know, a lot of people like the Hellcat now. And the Ruger Max 9 is pretty popular too. So
Bunch of them out there.
Well, the Max 9's
now that the list is kind of opened up, there's
Thank you, Reno May.
many more
exactly.
on the list available.
I saw something today. A new one popped on today, or popped off the list, I guess, or onto the list, however that works out. It just happened to catch a little ad popped over. It says now it's on the compliant list.
Another SIG, because they're hammering them.
They're doing well.
the Ruger Max 9 is a $430 retail.
Oh, very reasonable.
It's a 10 shot plus one in Californicated form.
Yes, exactly.
12 plus one in American form. And I have one that's got nearly 1,000 rounds. I went out and pounded like 250 rounds through it one day just to see. Mine has a Holosun mounted on it, and I put a Galloway trigger because the Ruger trigger is sub.
It needs some
par.
improvement.
Yeah, it was probably good.
But
when-
that Galloway trigger was not much.
$40.
Yeah,
Oh, okay.
and it was something that you were able to do.
YouTube University.
Yeah.
But
Great stuff on there.
in fact, I carried mine all morning when I was working around doing some stuff. But there's a lot of stuff that's available for ladies now. Problem is, we can't buy one of everything.
And you always like to tell how you taught for I don't know how long with that Max 9, throwing it in the dirt and stuff, not cleaning it, just
Not even oiling
trying
it.
to wait to see
right?
until it would malfunction, and it
From
put
October
up
of
with
23
a lot.
until May, I never cleaned it. I threw it in the dirt. I kicked sand over it, picked it up with my left hand and shot it. Never malfunctioned.
Oh, wow.
Until I got so much sand in the trigger, it quit working. So I had to take it apart.
What we're running into for my wife is trying to find so she could change the magazine. And that,
Reach with her thumb.
yeah, because she has psoriatic arthritis, and it's hard for her hands. She has it in her hands, so she's trying to find something she could actually get that to eject the magazine.
The
a little.
Smith & Wesson full-size gun is probably the easiest. It has the same shape as a shield, but you got to control the way you grip the gun, or you'll accidentally drop the magazine while you grip it. People who wrap their thumbs on top of each other, thumbs should not be crossed. They should be in bed spooning.
Yeah, no, she's really good about that. She's actually, but she ran into a lot of trouble trying to get that around. So I was actually going to ask you about that. So something.
Oh,
that,
how I get that?
yeah, and something that would be a little easier for her because she doesn't have really big hands. But
I just have to reach. I do a slight tilt with my grip to be able to reach. I have to do the same thing to lock the slide open. I have to reach around because the shape of my hand, my thumbs, I just
flip the gun and do it.
do the whole John Wick thing or whatever that is.
It's just the gun. You just tilt the gun to the left in my right hand, and now my thumb reaches.
Yeah, that's
The Glock is designed for you not to hit it.
Yeah, well, that's it.
They don't want you to hit it accidentally. And it's hard to take out. That's the way it's supposed to be, so you don't drop your magazine on the dirt.
Right. That makes sense.
So it's just it's a technique driven.
Yeah, she's just got to do more time at the range.
Yeah, but the Smith & Wesson M&P full-size gun for competition, that's got great controls.
Okay, well, maybe I'll have her look at that one because she
with
has the
the small
one.
grip.
Oh, yeah, I use the small grip.
Yeah.
Okay, can I go on a rant?
Have at it.
Oh boy.
Have at it.
Men pick up a gun with an adjustable grip. And it really doesn't matter what size their hand is. They put the largest grip frame on because we think we're men. I need the largest
A
one.
little ego going into it.
Yeah, but you don't grab the fat end of the baseball bat, do you? You grab the small end.
Yeah.
As long as you can get your hands around it and control it, smaller is better.
Unless you've got some giant hands. I've seen some big
Sasquatch.
hands.
There's Sasquatch.
And then there can be a grip that's so small they cannot.
Yeah, 2-inch revolvers. Guys,
yeah.
big giant guys with 2-inch revolvers. Like, I can't even control the gun. No, I can't control the shield well. Yeah. My hand doesn't like it. It twists in my hand.
I was shooting the shield, and that's what Naomi told me. She goes, you need a different gun.
That's
My hand didn't sit just right.
With a shield versus a Glock, and I'm trained on a Glock. I can put hole through hole.
They
With the Glock, I can't do that.
with my gun in my right hand, two-handed, with proper grip, crushed grip, I end up drifting under the left inch and a half at 7 yards. Yeah. Over a magazine.
And I'm the same with the Glock 22.
Yeah.
Yeah, I had a friend of mine. She was going to get a shield, and I'm like, well, come on out, and we've got one. You can shoot it, see how you like it. She shot it, and she was like, huh. And then her hands were a little bit bigger, and we ended up. She liked the Glock 26. She liked because it was thicker. It felt better in her hand, and then the recoil just was spread out a little bit more in the wedge of her hand. So that was her happy place. So
Everybody's
individual.
different.
Find
It's
what's
individual.
comfortable.
You got it. I would tell my ladies, you've got to like your gun. You've got to enjoy shooting it, because if you don't enjoy shooting it, it just becomes another chore. Oh my goodness, we have enough chores to do.
Yeah.
Let's keep it fun. Let's enjoy it.
I think the most adaptable gun on the market, bar none, is the SIG 365. Because you serialize the internal part, and then everybody and their brothers, sisters, cousins, aunts, ex-wife's husband makes parts for it. Metal frames, plastic frames,
Everything's
all
there.
kinds of metal. Bigger, smaller, thicker, wider. Becky carries a 365 with a Wilson Combat grip frame, and it adds about, I don't know exactly, it feels like about 1/4 inch to 3/8 of an inch of depth to it, and it's more rounded. I pick up this factory 365 frame, and, oh yeah, it's nice, I put it down like I'm done. I don't like it at all. But her gun I like.
It has that little extra.
Just a little depth. And so people can, for $80, I can change it.
Yeah. Makes it still reasonable because the price wasn't bad to start, you said.
Right. And you can put different slides and dots and barrels, and there's so much made for the 365.
Well, what we're learning now is my wife has just started this whole, Naomi Moss got her into the idea of doing competition shooting, is that you can spend a lot of money doing this.
You spend a lot of your money.
Oh, yeah. It's like all of a sudden I'm like, you got to go work an overtime shift. Yeah, that's going to keep doing this. So, yeah, absolutely. You brought up a comment, you made a comment earlier about how we've got the roster in California. It's changing. When you started doing training back in 83 or whatever, and compared to now, there's got to be, we have a lot more regulations and rules on us, of course. Back then compared to now, what is it? What are you looking at? If you're going to compare apples to apples?
I remember working in a gun store in college and selling open bolt Mac 10s in California, semi-automatic. And yet if you bought a Colt 1911, which we sold them, we had a good price on them at one point, they would come in, they would give me the cash for the gun. They would give me $500 cash to send over to the local gunsmith, who was really famous at the time, to get the gun to work, because most Colt 1911s wouldn't work with hardball, because the Colt was owned by the unions, still is run by the unions, and although it's owned by CZ now, and the guns were defective. Smith & Wessons, at one point, 30% of the Smith & Wesson revolvers that came in had to go back immediately because the barrels were on crooked. They were twisted, or there was some other defect. It didn't have a trigger in it or whatever. And compared to now, you can go buy almost any Kimber, Springfield Armory, anything that's for sale in California and get a good working gun. And with this 365 on the roster, you can make it almost anything you want. So it's, I think we're in a golden age for handguns.
Yeah. So we're in a good spot as far as the manufacturing and the quality. But are the laws making it harder on you?
As an instructor or as a...
Both. As an instructor, as
Not really. I mean, it made it harder on everybody. SB2 made it hard on everybody.
Yeah.
And by the way, our local senator in Jasmeet Baines didn't vote on it. They voted present. They could have voted no. So people need to remember that when old Hurtado comes up. She didn't exercise a vote for freedom or liberty.
Present is probably one of the most frustrating things that they could do in Congress, in my opinion.
And when you have overwhelming majorities, she could have voted against it and said, yes, I'm standing up for Second Amendment rights. And it would have been a lie. So I guess that's good. She didn't do that. But it's just frustrating.
Like I said, to me, the present vote is worse than a no or a yes, no matter where you stand. Because then you're just a coward. That's the way I look at that one.
I think, for some reason you can only carry 2 loaded guns at the same time because 3 is evil. You're now going to go off your rocker because you have 3. And I know cops who carry 3.
Right.
But they're cops, but we have to defund the police.
Looking for some logic?
No. So other than that, I guess, there's laws. You have to take a 16-hour class to get a permit. You have to take an 8-hour class to renew it. We did the whole class online. We have a whole online format, video. Not enough Becky in it. I'll just tell you that.
Is that right?
Too much Craig.
And I think one of the things when SB2 came out, we were both looking at, what the heck, an hour of mental health? And
that's the one thing we get the most compliments
and we
on.
get a lot of compliments on it. I mean, originally, Craig, we were going to have somebody else do it, and we were talking more and more about it. And then I'm like, Craig, you're a licensed therapist. I mean, it's inactive, but come on, this is your wheelhouse. You should be able to do this.
Put your big boy therapist pants on and do this.
Yeah, just
you got to walk right into that one, I guess.
Just do it. Do it. And
yeah, I would consider it a God thing.
And he gave it thought and spent some time on it.
Our friend sent us an outline because he was struggling over the same thing.
another instructor, and so it kind of all came together, and there's been a lot of positives on that. So instead of having to sit in a classroom for 7 hours or so, 7.5, or read something that some of the instructors are using when you read and take a test, you can sit and listen to it 10, 15 minutes at a time, save your spot, come back to it. You could do your CCW class in your boxer briefs with a frosty glass of root beer and a bowl of popcorn. And some
I think that's
jerky.
what I liked about it best. I could start and stop because I got things I got to do. And
another thing that's been nice about that is like when husbands are doing it, a wife who might be somewhat interested but not really, it's like just have her watch it with you if she's willing. And then there've been a few who have like, hey, that there's a lot of good stuff in there, and then they've gone ahead and pursued getting a firearm and getting their CCW.
Are you seeing a lot of new people coming in getting their CCWs now? I mean, I know Donnie's great about signing them.
Yeah.
Well, he doesn't have a whole lot of choices anymore. That's brutal.
Right.
I mean, he was always
wonderful.
awesome.
Yes. He made it pretty. He sat in here, like I said, a few weeks back, and he was very clear about that.
He's always been awesome. He's a good dude.
He was. He was great. He sat here, and he said, if it hits my desk, I'm going to sign it. Because if it made it pass through all those other ones, there's nothing to stop it at that point. But he said it's been made a lot easier. And I know him and Mike Boudreau have a little competition going right now about who can get the most.
Boudreau was winning for a long time.
Yes, he's coming on in a couple weeks, actually.
We have a really good sheriff in this county. And here's my measure of it, my metric on it. In a lot of departments all over the state of California and the United States, if an officer does illegal things or things he should not do, they hide him on a night shift in some remote station and they bury it. And every time Donnie, I'm calling him Donnie, the sheriff arrests one of their officers or a CHP or whatever, it's a sad occasion, but they're going to do it. And then it may work out that their charges are dropped or whatever happens with the DA, but he'll arrest people. And I think that's one of the metrics of knowing you've got a good sheriff. He's not going to play favorites.
He made a comment while he was in here about taking away the CCWs from friends of his. that went out and got a DUI.
Yeah.
And they would call him thinking they could get a favor. And he's like, they're like, what can I do?
Not
and
for Sheriff Youngblood.
He said, you can mail your license back to me right now. This episode today is brought to you by Branded Feed and Farm Supply over at 4328 Rosedale Highway. They're a locally owned business. This is where you can get your dog food, your horse feed, your chicken feed, pretty much anything you're going to need for your animals. But at the same time, you could go in there and get all kinds of knowledge. Seth and the gang, they really know what they're talking about. They're very helpful. And really, in going in there, you're supporting a local business. These folks have done a great job over the years. I've worked with them. I've had a great time. They're a lot of fun. And like I said, you can learn a lot just by going in there. Ask the questions. So appreciate, support them. They're helping support us. We want to move them forward in this also. Thank you. Branded Feed and Farm Supply. Be sure to support the local business. One of the questions we did have, though, was we've had the roster change. We're getting more and more guns on there. Do you feel that had something to do with when they started the roster? Did they have to make the guns a little better? Did they make the firearms high quality? So what caused the change, you think?
The roster was inspired by what they call the Sun Valley Group, which was the Ravens, the Jennings, and the Bryco guns. They were one family, kind of owned those businesses, one kind of extended family, and they were making inexpensive guns. So poor people could afford to defend themselves. I have a client, I sold him a Jennings when I worked in a gun store in like 80, 81. He still carries it. He still shoots it.
Really?
He practices with that 9mm Jennings. It's still running. They weren't cheap, but that was we got to get rid of these cheap guns. People are getting hurt. Well, yeah, they were getting shot because they were doing things they shouldn't be doing.
Well.
But the first gun on the roster was a Bryco.
Okay, so that kind of...
All I did is add a safety to it.
And they were good.
And they were on the roster. So it didn't work. It never works.
Right. Well,
it was all a way to restrict access to firearms.
Well, it seems like that's what a majority of the things that our glorious governor puts out there is. He realized he can't outlaw the guns, so let's do this.
All praise our glorious governor.
Yeah.
His $9 million mansion.
Yes, I think it was given to him, right?
Governor Nuisance.
Yeah, gosh.
Especially if you're in the oil industry or the ag industry or
I think our mayor here is in a little bit of hot water because of that. Did you see her the other day?
Yeah.
Really kind of kissing up to Gavin Newsom? He was in town.
Yeah.
And she was right by his side, and she's going to have some questions to answer. She was awful friendly and complimenting how great he was with our community.
And I tell people I don't care who you vote for. And I go back to Patton's quote that he said, if everybody thinks the same, then somebody isn't thinking. We should have diversity of thought and debated issues. And I encourage that.
No, have at it. Have at it. So. You can agree to disagree at times. It doesn't have to change the way you talk to folks and be friends.
Yeah, don't be a jerk.
No, don't be a jerk. I have a lot of friends that are very liberal. I'm not, but I have a lot of friends that are, and we don't agree. Yeah. But yeah, she came to town, and when he came down, he probably got Karen going a little bit of trouble. But she'll answer for it.
She'll hear it.
Oh, I'm sure she will.
Shannon will have a talk with her.
Yes, exactly. Exactly.
I love Shannon Grove. She's my hero.
Yes, actually, I'm pretty fun. What's going to be her next step? It's going to be interesting. Is she done now? Yeah.
She's a grandma, so it may be doing grandma stuff.
Yeah, that takes a lot of priority. We talked briefly about that when we were talking before. I've got 3 now, so yeah, that's my priority.
We're up to 7.
Are you really? That is awesome.
And they're all local. Oh my goodness, it's wonderful.
Oh, I always think kids are great. Grandkids are awesome. Yeah, I enjoyed my kids, but his daughters are a lot more fun. And my grandson is just. I was with him today. He's a lot of fun. So we are seeing a lot of higher quality guns then. So that is a big factor. But so when you started training with your dad, with Norvin, years ago, that had to be pretty special, I would think, when you look back at that.
It was normal.
Yeah. It's
I
just
was 7 when I shot a 1911 45 for the first time in a 2-inch 38. That's what you did.
It's just it was a daily process.
And we had, I was given my first 22 when I was 9, and a shotgun right after, and by an uncle. It's really your grandfather, but yeah, I just thought that was normal. And then, my dad carried a Colt Python as a deputy, so it was always by good quality, whatever you can afford, and then move forward with it. Practice with it, train with it.
And he probably pushed you to get out there and practice a lot.
I was on the Bakersfield College pistol team as an 18-year-old, and he bought me a 4-inch Smith & Wesson Combat Masterpiece, which I quickly traded for a 6-inch version to him. And then I got the 4-inch version back 30 years later.
We were talking yesterday about how great it would be to get that back into the high schools. It's where the kids could actually shoot. I'm sure BC doesn't have a pistol course anymore. But
I don't think so. They don't have a law enforcement academy up there, I don't think.
Yeah, Mosley teaches for the high school.
They also are moving, West Tech evidently is moving out of the law enforcement training.
Are they?
They're giving up their proctorship evidently, supposed to go to BC.
Oh, really?
So
Okay.
pick it back up.
Yeah, maybe they will. That's Tony Mosley was telling me he teaches a law enforcement class at the ROC.
Right.
And they have 6 classes, I guess, which
One
5
of
or
our
6.
employees teaches over there with her.
Oh, is that right? I think that's awesome. The more they can get in there, the better. Yeah, it's not firearms training, but it's starting the process. So
It's
I
discipline, it's thinking, it's moving your thinking logically in the right direction.
No, well, we'll take it, absolutely. Do you foresee any other laws coming in that are going to hamper gun ownership in this state that we're running into?
The governor's going to try, but they're losing.
Oh, yeah, every time he puts it out there, he loses. But
And that doesn't mean that we don't have to deal with the law for a while. The problem is there's not enough money to pay enough lawyers. California Rifle Pistol Association has taken the lead, and if you're not a member, you should be in this. And they've done the Lord's work, if you will, on, the roster list. That's May versus Bonta is a CRPA bill or a lawsuit, which is still moving forward, by the way. All we have is a preliminary injunction. When the judge gets done with it, I think we'll get rid of the magazine disconnector safety and the loaded chamber indicators.
is that the group that Wesley Morris is part of?
He's been involved with a lot of them. Firearms Policy Coalition, he was one of the drivers to get, when AR-15s were, quote, banned,
Right.
he got us bullet button guns.
Yes. He was telling me that
Featureless.
about, it seems like he's on the board or something
might be.
for one of those.
I haven't talked to him in a while.
Yeah, it's been a couple months since we spoke, but that seemed like that was one that came up, that trying to get more and more people involved in that organization to help out.
Yeah, I think, for the money, it helps pay the lawyers. And if that's what you can afford, if you can afford it, if not, get on their podcast, their YouTube channel, and like and subscribe, and that helps their algorithms and moves things forward.
With, going back to our governor a little bit, and our state representatives up there adding that extra 11% sales tax.
Yes.
And you had brought up about how some of those guns in the past made it to where lower income folks could actually buy guns and afford guns. Sure. Have you seen that hamper people getting out and shooting a little more often?
No, I think people just expect it and bite it, the bullet, and just go out and buy the bullets.
Because when I looked at it, I always think of, I was raised by a single mother. So she was going to be able to go spend all the extra money on stuff, and that just seemed like that would hurt.
Oh, yeah.
It's going to hurt people practicing.
So we're going to go buy an inexpensive gun like $1,000 SIG and now add 11% to it.
Yeah.
And the High Point's not on the roster anymore. It fell off the roster. And that was our good inexpensive. You buy a good 9mm for $150. They work. Had a guy in class last week using one.
Oh, is that right?
Oh, yeah, they work great. I've only ever seen one break during a session.
Oh.
And it was something in the trigger group broke. But they great warranty. The ATF gives them awards because they have like 75 different serial number, the same serial number, like not 75, that's hyperbole, but
Sure.
I think 13 different times. They won't tell you where they are, but the ATF knows where they are.
Oh, is it?
So yeah, they get a gun, somebody cut the serial number off, they know where it's at. They know what it is.
Oh, okay. That's
And yet the guns work. And so once again, you interfere with poor people. And what does this electric vehicle mandate do? It hurts the poor people.
Yes.
Or the working man and woman. And all this gun stuff just hurts the working person.
Yeah.
Like you said, single moms. And how many single moms have we had out, over the years?
Oh, yeah, especially looking at being responsible for the safety of the household, and should somebody, break in, they're the one that's going to have to answer, and just wanting to be able to be safe.
Well, and if that dovetails. Can I take us back? What we run into a lot is people this brings a lot of emotions to table. My son had stepped in for us when we were out of town. We had a big class kind of unexpectedly, and he stepped in to help our employees. And he's helping a woman whose husband had just died. And he always came with her, and she's having an emotional crisis. Well, he's good, and he understood, and he was compassionate and helped her through it. Probably the most profound one for me was about 15 years ago. She's in Becky's beginning handgun class, and I don't know, I'm just helping, right? And I'm on the range with her, and she's she can't pull the trigger. And so I have her hold it while I pull the trigger. And then I have her put her finger on it and I pull it. And she's breaking down, she's crying. I'm a therapist. I'm going to ask, how can I help? I know it's going to happen. It takes a few minutes, and we talked a little bit, and she tells me, the last time I held a gun, my father shot my mother in the face with it, and then looked at me and said, "This is all your fault, bitch," and shot himself. And I picked the gun up and moved it out of the way. And Bruno and I called the police, and I was a little kid. And now she's on the range, and it's part of her therapy process, getting her mojo, getting herself on her feet.
Facing her fear.
Facing it. It was profound for her and me. Like, I never know who's going to come to her class. Becky, especially Becky's beginning classes.
Yeah.
And I have to be, we all try to be very cautious and compassionate, but that's a powerful moment for that person. I'm getting my power back in this world. And you think, gun class, yeah, well, that's where the therapy helps, the therapist part of me. And then we have Becky and our employees, they're all good. They'll notice something's wrong. This person's not having a good day. And
that's
you have to do that.
I don't know how you guys handled that one. It's a very good thing that you are.
Well, that's awesome. Let's get out here and shoot this gun. You got your power
Yeah, just
now.
encouragement and supportive, and just acknowledging baby steps, little. That's where having kids and stuff, you be positive, encouraging.
Yeah.
For every little step.
And one of the ones that we come up with occasionally, not so much anymore, there's been a cultural change on it, I think, is somebody saying, well, I just don't know I just could never shoot anybody. Okay. And I walk them through the progression. So if they wanted to kidnap you and rape you and torture you and kill you in front of your child, do you be okay with that? Well, now they're going, not in front of my child. Well, what if they wanted to kidnap, rape your daughter, who was standing next to her at the time, this one lady? And she finally looked back and said, and I just said, you're saying that criminal has equal social value as you, and yet they're raping and killing and assaulting, and you say they have equal social value. I'm not talking about Jesus. Jesus loves them all.
Right.
Loves all of us, but it's a struggle people go through. There's a great article, we have it on our website, is Does God Believe in Gun Control? That covers the religious aspects, and a lot of people struggle with that. One of the things that the Jewish folks seem to not be struggling over is arming themselves since October 7th last year. And a lot of devout Jews, good people, out learning, I need to get this taken care of.
Probably a good idea.
So anyway, would you agree that sometimes that emotionally that's
Yeah, I like to point out that nobody has the right to take you from your children. Nobody has the right to deny your child that relationship with you. And that it's your duty to stick around, to be there, to mother that child, and to be the grandmother for the grandchildren to come.
We've had that conversation we had a teacher that we're good friends with, and we had almost the same type of conversation because she said, I don't think I could ever shoot anybody, even if they were going to harm me. But my daughter obviously would. She didn't have a problem with that. She would carry hers and do whatever. And it was one of her teaching partners. And we were talking about it. She said, maybe I do need to go out and shoot, because I said, what would happen if somebody came into your house and they're going to hurt your kids? Yeah, they might kill you, but now what's happened? Now you've left that kid alone. Even if the kid wasn't with you,
even
you've
if
changed
they
it
don't
forever.
hurt your kids.
Yeah.
20 years later, when your daughter's getting married and she wants you there with her,
Exactly.
You're not there with her. You've let her down.
Yeah, you've taken a lot away.
And our great grandmothers would have, went to town. They put the shotgun on the seat next to them. They had no problems with that.
I think J.D. Vance's mama did it. The stories about her after she passed away, and they were cleaning out the house, and
all the guns.
Like 17 guns around the house in every room. I mean, that's a goal to have right there.
She didn't get around very well.
No, she didn't have to.
People have all kinds of reasons to come to it, and it's just dealing with it. Am I going to be able to use force? Am I able to not use force? I mean, how can you not preserve yourself. So again, that article is pretty good. It brings up.
I'm gonna have to look on there and read that one. I like that a lot because we've had that same type of conversation. It's not about you; it's about what you're leaving behind too.
Well, Martin Luther said it's for your community too. Martin Luther King said, "Well, if you don't have any friends and you live alone and you never talk to any other human being in the world, then you could allow yourself to be killed and not for Jesus, but for just allow that."
Yes, I had a good friend who's very anti-gun, but one time we were in a very bad part of town, in a different city, and we were going to dinner. And as we got there and started to get out of the car, she looked over, she said, "You have your gun with you, right?" And I said, "Yes, I do." And I said, "You should never carry one in your life. I totally appreciate that. But never infringe on my right to protect you." And
I love the masks.
oh, gosh.
I wear a mask. You need to wear a mask to protect me. Oh, cool. I'll do that. You got a gun?
Yeah.
No, because you need to carry a gun to protect me.
Yeah, exactly.
If I have a social obligation, it goes both ways, don't you think?
That would not be very popular in a lot of places.
It's the same argument.
It absolutely is.
And I'm not afraid to make it.
No, I don't think.
My wife will hit me, tell me to shut up. Leave her alone. Yeah, but that's okay. That's her role.
I get that from time to time between my wife and my daughters. They're like, "You need to not say that." I said, "No, I did need to say that. There's a reason behind it." So, and that's okay. So really, I mean, we've been at this for a little over an hour now, actually. But what kind of, you have events coming up? Or you got the Haley?
We have Haley coming. We always have, the way we do the CCW class, if you're getting the permit for the first time, you sign up for our online course that pays for your range session. And then you do the law training, use of force training, and some particular holster stuff. You do it all online. And then you come to the range and there's a 6-hour range session because we're going to meet the state standard of 16 hours, period, at least, and probably over because I talk too much. And then when you have a permit for 2 years, you renew it and you take the class online. And how long we're about 7.5 hours, 7:15?
7.5. Around
Depends.
there. And then like 30 minutes on the range to an hour, depending on how many guns you're qualifying
For the
with.
renewal.
Yeah, for the renewal.
We don't care how many guns you bring. We like you.
Yeah.
You put 6 on your permit, bring all 6. If you want a 7th so you can add it in a month because you knew you're going to give this one to your brother, so you have
Yeah, go for it. Bring it. Just plan extra time.
Sheriff Youngblood made the comment. He says, "I don't know why anybody would want to put 5 guns on there. Just pick the one you like and carry that one." But he was...
Until it gets stolen.
Until it gets stolen, yeah.
Or you use it and the police are going to take it.
There you go.
So why do you have 2?
Have an
Because
extra.
1 is none and 2 is
2 is...
1. Because if you use it the way you use it to protect yourself or others,
Yeah.
police are going to take it maybe for a year, 2 years, and maybe longer. And so, maybe it makes sense to buy 2 identical guns. If you really like your 365, it's not cheap though to replace it. So, and you have to wait your waiting period to get a new one. And so
What's your opinion on that?
On what, the
On
waiting
the waiting period?
It's stupid. If I go into a store to buy a gun, which I have recently,
Sure.
and because I love my CZ P01 and I wanted another one, so I can build it just like the one I got on. By the way, I'm wearing my CZ 75 P01 in my T-Rex holster with the sidecar and VZ grips and CZ custom action and RMR on it, just in case anybody's wondering. Well,
Absolutely.
but I had to wait 10 days. I'm carrying a gun, at least 1, maybe a bit 2, you never know, 3. And I can carry 3 because of my law enforcement credential, or 5, and a rifle or a shotgun, which is stupid. You should be able to do the same thing. And now I got to wait 10 days to pick a gun up, but I got one on.
Yeah.
And there is some logical evidence on suicide prevention. Maybe you have to wait 10 days for the first one. Maybe if that's compliant with Bruin and compliant with the Constitution. But back when the Constitution was founded, which is 1791.
Yeah.
If you wanted a gun, you might go to the blacksmith and say, "You got any old guns?" And I need me a pistol. And he'd say, "Sure, I got this one Jim traded a couple of months ago, and I'll trade it to you for one of them piglets you got and a barrel of molasses." And you walk out with it. And the Bruin case says if it's not something that happened in 1791, you can't do it now.
Maybe we just need to take molasses and piglets to the gun store and see if Dustin will take that from us over there at Dirty Bird.
Dustin's a good guy.
Yeah, he's been on here too, actually.
But it's just stupid.
I actually agree with the initial. I mean, I'm okay with the initial 10-day fine. You're going to do so. It doesn't take 10 days to get that back. We all know that. You're going to find out within, what is it, 24 to 48 hours max.
When they put in the address and hit the enter,
it's done. Yeah.
DOJ knows within 90 seconds for 80 some odd % of the people.
Yeah, that's just silly. It's just silly. But yeah, after you have a gun, or certainly after you have a CCW, I felt that's really silly.
Well, we had a case on this that was headed up to the appellate process, and then whatever reason they refused to hear it. But now we have Bruin, which changes everything. We went from 1 or 2 cases every couple of decades to hundreds and hundreds of cases filed in the last 2 years. California's got, 3 dozen, 4 dozen?
Yeah.
Second Amendment cases at the federal level. So it's kind of fun. It's interesting times.
With your probation background, I actually have another question on that. And I asked Sheriff Youngblood the same type of thing. So in that, you're dealing with a lot of people, a lot of felons. Mm-hmm. What are your thoughts on the idea of eventually a felon being able to get back and be able to...
What happened in the 1830s? You served your time.
Right.
That was your punishment. And what's the old, was it Clint Eastwood, where they're letting him out of prison and they give him his gun back? Yeah, you didn't lose your rights to defend yourself.
Right.
The Second Amendment, at its core, is a right of self-defense.
Yeah.
And so I'll tell you, I've had probationers that did so well that before they got off probation, because they were never actually sentenced when they're on probation, go to the court and say, "Court, I'd like to bring him in. Here's the deal." He'd say, "Fine." And I ran a special program for a while. And at least 2 people, I came in, we had all their felony charges dismissed. In one case, the DA started to say, "Well, I can't really dismiss this charge." And the court looked at the DA and said, "Then maybe you want to amend it, Mr. District Attorney?" "Oh, yeah, let's just amend it to simple possession." And then the guy walked out no longer. I have 2 of them like that. One of them married one of my friends.
Oh, was that? Wow.
She married one of my friends. Amazing person. I've had more people come back and thank me for arresting him, sending him to prison than I can count. And yet they're without a pardon from the governor. They don't get their rights yet. On the other hand, the Ninth Circuit just gave a guy his rights back. He'd been to prison. And it only applies to him, but he had drug-related charges. And the Ninth Circuit said, he didn't have any violence. You can't keep him from owning a gun.
Yeah, Sheriff Youngblood felt pretty close to the same way. You should be able to get after a certain amount of time. Yeah, that's kind of where we ended on that one. Was it have a time frame?
Well, we'll see what the Supreme Court says, because they're going to end up getting them. A bunch of them. There's a bunch of them like that.
Is there?
But typically, what happened in California is that the Ninth Circuit decision applied only to that one man.
Yeah,
it doesn't apply to the entire Ninth Circuit. So as the law develops, case law develops, it'll be more and more applicable.
Yeah, because it'll start running out at that point. So.
Well, I know people who, my youth pastor as a kid, my dad arrested him twice, stuck a gun in his face and said, "I'm going to have to shoot you one of these times or you're going to go to Teen Challenge. What's your choice?" And took him up, arrested him. He went to Teen Challenge, became a pastor, local pastor, good guy, Pat. And then he wanted a pardon later, and I wrote him a letter. So, yeah, absolutely. And for 2 marijuana cigarettes, he had 2 felonies for possession of 1 marijuana joint each time.
Times have changed.
Oh, yes, absolutely.
It wouldn't even be a crime now.
No.
So, at the time in the 1830s, 40s, 50s, 60s, they figured, well, you did your time. You paid your price. You paid your debt to society. And if you do something else, somebody will shoot you. Or stab you. Or
they're going to stop you, hopefully. Yeah.
Yeah. So you should probably not do that.
Well, that was kind of my thought, is that you're taking away that person's ability to protect himself and herself and their family.
And to move forward in their life.
Yeah.
Even at some level, do I think the level that maybe we should have somebody is free, they've been doing great for 8 or 9 years, and then they commit some sort of heinous crime. Well, then maybe we should be able to aggregate those old charges for sentencing. But it's some level, well, you look at the Bible. The Old Testament lays it out.
It's pretty clear.
It's pretty clear. And is it Utah has a issue? So is it 7 years after an alcohol conviction before you get your permit back? 5 years?
Is that what it is?
I don't remember. I haven't been a Utah instructor in a while.
No.
So anyway, I could rant on and on about that. But
No, I've that's something that's bothered me for a long time. And it was, like I said, I asked Donnie about it, and I was really curious. I mean, with you, especially with your background in that, I think it should be given back.
Well, evidently the Ninth Circuit does too in some cases.
Yeah, and I think you're right. I think that's going to run out into other things. So that's very good. Well, is there anything else you'd like to promote or highlight out there right now?
Holster.
Oh,
There is a holster.
Let's have it.
Amazing, stunning. It's by a company called Filster, which is not spelled correctly. It's
Okay.
Phlster.
Okay.
Only holster Becky's carrying. She's going on now. Can't see it.
Yeah.
And it's super comfortable. And you can wear it in your gym shorts. You know, if you're a dude and you're wearing your skinny jeans, I don't want to know about it. But you could hide it because you don't have to wear a belt. It's its own belt. It's a chassis system. And you can change holsters. And I've got one for a 9mm Glock, which also is for the 26th. And super comfortable, easy to carry. The problem with the Glock 26 and the shield, the muzzle's not long enough. So you don't have anything to tiller it to keep it tight against your body. So the holster is longer to keep it tillered.
A Filster.
Filster.
it's by Filster, it's the Enigma.
Filster Enigma.
I'll have to look that up.
So, but you get a lot of questions when we show it at class.
Yep, it's very handy. I remember saying, well, what we women need is we need like a girdle that sucks us in like the inch that the gun is thick, and then we're even. And so it's not like we're, adding extra thickness. And the Filster kind of does that because it pulls it into your body. So it's holding it into your body, and it's nice, hands-free, smooth, easy draw stroke.
And you carried a belly band for years.
Well, and the belly band I always liked, again, because it's attached to me individually, not attached to my pants. So running into
But
use
the
the
belly
restroom
band was
was
too
simple.
hot and sweaty.
Yeah, that
it's
wide, thick
warm.
elastic, Bakersfield, summer heat, ridiculous.
Well, and-
this has a much smaller belt, so it's not quite as hot.
With a
but
quick release buckle.
It does
And-
have that.
And then some people rust guns faster than others. Becky can rust stainless steel. She's a redhead. That's just normal. Oh, no, it's serious.
Not the genetic mutation. No, he has his whole rant. He goes
She has
off and
superpowers.
talks about this whole genetic
No, trust me.
mutation and that I'm a mutant, and then he names off all these things. And
It's all the superpowers that redheads have, and it's true.
Yeah, I have a daughter that burns up phones just by touching her body. For some odd, she has something odd. We don't know why, but her phones would burn up because of her body temperature.
So, but the thing with the Filster is that it's not as hot.
Yeah.
It can be worn, again, sweatpants. You don't need to wear a belt. And one of their videos, the first one I think I ever saw, was they made this because everybody's different.
hills and valleys.
Everybody has different hills and
I'd be
valleys.
curious if a woman designed it.
Yeah,
I imagine she and her husband did together.
they own the company. The dog's name is Phil. PHLSTER, Philster.
There you go. Okay.
That's the dog's name.
Yes.
But yeah, it's a cool piece of kit that people don't necessarily know about unless they've been over and talked to Becky or I remember to show it in class. I think that there's a lot of cool stuff. The thing with women's stuff, women's holsters, women's guns, is women designing them instead of some dude designing it for women.
Yes, that's
What's that new one we saw from SIG? The rose gold or rose edition? One of the female Jerry Michelik's daughter designed the colors for it. Sure, she does their ads.
okay. Hey,
So
if it gets more people getting them and they're more comfortable, how about it, right? That's the basic on that really we talk about is find something you're comfortable with, find somebody you're comfortable with who's willing to and you can learn from. But get out there and do it, and then your 90-day thing I think was really
90 days.
yeah. You've got to get out there. I mean,
You don't have to shoot a lot.
no.
You
Just
shoot 20,
stay
30 rounds.
familiar. Stay familiar.
Run the 2 magazines through your gun.
Yeah, that's exactly what
Buy
we
a gun
do.
that is a BB gun that duplicates your gun, like the Glock BB gun.
Mm-hmm.
It'll fit your holsters. The slide reciprocates. The one that says Glock on the side because it's licensed by Umarex.
Oh, there you go. That's
So, but it's you got to go 90. Don't go more than 90 days.
no muscle memory, right? Muscle memory. Well, very good. Well, I think that's your background's pretty cool. Like I said, I think that's.
Thank you.
I really like that. I think it gives you an edge.
I planned all of it. I was born
Absolutely. Your dad had a plan from the beginning. Get you out there at 7.
My dad did, yeah.
Yeah, but I think the probation background of the therapist. I think I think that's kind of a cool thing for this.
or hilarious. Either one. I'm good with it.
Very good. Well, with that, like I said, I appreciate you guys coming. Got a couple gifts for you to go with you on your way, and I hope you like them. I see you like your cups, so we got a couple cups for you.
Oh, that's awesome. Thank you so much.
Well, I tell you, I really like them. I think they're pretty neat, and it's not a fancy Stanley. Well, yours is a Yeti, but
and it was on sale.
absolutely, absolutely. But like I said, we really like to highlight the local folks out here. I mean, we're local, of course, but the more we could get anybody out doing this, I think it's great, and really take care of themselves and their families. So we appreciate you coming a lot.
It doesn't have to be pistols.
No.
I was out last week with shotguns, and we're doing rifle here in a couple weeks. And
My wife loves her. She has a little carbine. She loves it. Goes out and shoots in that one. That's and there again, better than I do. So, well, very good. Well, thank you much, guys. I sure appreciate it. I think
Our pleasure.
For having
No, I
us.
said we'll highlight it when we get ready to post. We'll let you know, and we'll make sure we have a link to your site on there.
Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Best of all, a 5-star review is much appreciated.